our plan, as we look at our calendar here, we're going to continue on in chapter 9, which is looking at assembling parts. So I have for you, and we'll look at there in just a bit, I have for you some files that we're going to use, the book files actually, to make a take-up frame. And then we're also going to look at a ball bearing, and then tomorrow we'll kind of finish up the tutorials. So I'm giving you demos on the tutorials so that as you're working through them, hopefully it's helpful to kind of see it done first without just having the book stuff here. But the book is a really good resource. I've been finding it's pretty good. And then so tomorrow we'll finish up these tutorials. These tutorials are a graded assignment for you guys, and they will be due next week, Friday, okay? Now, reminder, we do not have, I've got a fly flying around here. We do not have school or class next week, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, but we will be back on Thursday. So any questions that you have working on these tutorials will take at that time, okay? So, but they'll be officially due on Friday. That's like your only Friday due date throughout the semester, I believe. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna then take it kind of to that next level. So technically these tutorials, there's four or five, I think 5 tutorials total. Yeah, 5 tutorials total that are going to be due then next week, Friday. And then we're gonna have some out of the chapter assemblies to do then to kind of build on the tutorials that we've been learning from. There is a lot here. So assemblies, I think, take a little bit of practice. So that's why I'm giving us some time to just get, pulling those things in, identifying and attaching the constraints appropriately to reflect design intent, and then we'll take it to that next level in chapter 10 and create the drawings for it. Okay, now let's take a peek at the learning plan so you know where this information is that I speak of. So this is going to be assembly practice. This is chapter 9. Now, we went over the PowerPoint yesterday, kind of introducing assemblies and talking about some of the constraints that are going to be the more popular ones that we end up seeing. And then I showed you these chapter 9 tutorial files. Now, this is going to be the place where you can download the files that are associated with each one of the assembly tutorials that is in that chapter 9. So the swinging link assembly parts, I demonstrated that one yesterday, and these are the parts that you would download. Make sure they're all in the same working directory, and then you're going to build your assembly. Same thing for the next then 4 tutorials as we work through here. I do want to let you know at the end of the swinging link assembly parts, there's another short tutorial. It's really not that short or easy, and it's about making an exploded view, exploded assembly view. Just skip that. I don't want you guys to do that. All right, just do creating the assembly and pulling the parts together. That exploded stuff is, I don't know. I'm not concerned about that right now. I want to be able to pull that stuff in and get familiar with assigning the constraints as needed, and we'll worry about exploded assemblies a little bit later. So here you'll notice that you're going to be downloading these by simply clicking on them. Now, as I said yesterday, if you end up downloading more than once, you may get that parentheses 1 or parentheses 2 in back of the PRT. You need to delete that, otherwise it won't populate in you won't see it. It might be in the directory, but you won't see it when you pull up Creo in that working directory, because it's looking for just .prts at the end. So if that happens, just go in that directory, rename it just by selecting on it and getting rid of the parentheses 1, and then it'll show up and it'll be fine. It happened to me once or twice, and I kind of figured it out. But because I'm like, it's there, I know it's there, I see it, but it was that parentheses 1 or 2 that kind of tripped it up a little bit. Now, I also want to let you know that the files that I have here, I grabbed from the website, from the book, okay? And then what I did was I downloaded them here for you, and then now what you need to do is put them into a working directory. Now, we had one student who downloaded this, their version of Creo, from the Creo website, so it's locally loaded on their machine. It's an education version, okay, or academic version. And for some reason, she was having problems after she downloaded these, put them in the same working directory, and she was having issues pulling them up, saying that it was a commercial part, and she couldn't pull it up in the academic version. Now, I did test this here. If on the computers here on our network, okay, which is the version that I have both on my laptop and here, they're working fine under my username and other people's usernames. It seems that the issue may be with the locally loaded. So we're still working through it. So what I did do was I resaved all these files, like as a new name, if you would. I put a letter in front of them, and I sent them via email. And I'm waiting to hear back if that potentially is a solution. If that's the case, then that's what I'll do with all of our files so that they can be read both places, because I can still read the ones that I saved the second time, but I'm kind of waiting to see if this may correct the issue for the locally loaded version. So there's a stupid flag. So if you have the locally loaded version, if you downloaded that academic version of Creo 7.0, and you're trying to work with these parts, pulling them in to do the assembly, and you're having issues, please let me know, okay? Please let me know, and then we'll see if we can, find this solution really quickly. Try not to wait till the last minute to do these, because this way we're solving a problem for everybody. So if you can check those files, pull them up, let me know if you're having any issues pulling them in, if you have that locally loaded version. I know the network version, whether it's here or you're running it through Citrix is going to be okay too. But it's that locally loaded that I'm hopefully, I want to get that corrected so you can open all these files. All right, so keep me posted. Keep me posted on, how that's going. I don't think we have it solved just yet, but we will get to the bottom of it, I'm certain. So, all right, so we are going to be looking at the take-up frame assembly and the ball bearing assembly today. The take-up frame assembly starts on page 307 in your book, okay? And the files that you would download are right here. And you simply click on them to download them. It's going to go to your download folder on your computer. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take those and put them into your working directory. So whatever and wherever you've assigned that, okay? So that's up to you. So make sure they all get into the working directory that you've been working off of here in Creo, okay? So I've already done that. I've already downloaded, they're in my working directory, and I'm just going to start from there. So I'm going to minimize this part of my screen, and I'm going to go into a fresh Creo session, okay? Right away, before I even get started, okay? Even though I'm starting a new assembly, I need to set that working directory first, just like I have been all the way along. So working directory, here, I'm going to work with my H colon. That's what my H drive. That's what I've been doing actually, where I've been saving the files lately. So I've got my working directory set up. I selected it. And now I want to start new assembly. I want to have design set up here. And the file that I'm going to give it is going to be take up frame. Take up _ frame. We'll see if I've used that already. I have not. so that's what I'm going to use. Now, you can use what they're doing there. That's totally fine. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull in my first file, which is going to be, remember, that's always going to be the one that's going to be fixed, okay? Because there's nothing to constrain it to, like kind of match it to in any other parts. So when that first one comes in, we just say that's fixed. Even if it's moving in its final form, we're going to call it fixed. It's like the base where everything is going to start for our assembly. So I'm going to hit, in this model ribbon here, I'm going to hit assemble, okay? And my working directory comes up. That's why you want to set it up right away. You know you didn't set it up if your working directory doesn't come up here, okay? If not, then you have to go back and you have to set it. So, so when we're in here, the part that I want to pull in is called I think it's the lower plate, okay? I'm going to open, and I have it right here. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to go from automatic, and I'm going to go to fixed, done, okay? And then I can hit OK or right click, or I'm sorry, middle mouse button click. Now they're having you like kind of orient this a little bit differently so that standard orientation, and I just want to go back with this a little bit, and I want to rotate this forward, okay? They want you to kind of orient it similar to this, okay? And then they're having you practice assigning a view to this. So I'm going to go up to Orient. I'm going to add a new standard orientation or an orientation to this, and then we're going to call it 3D View, okay? And then I'm going to hit Enter, and you'll notice that it added it here for us. and we're just going to hit close. So that way, when we go into, for instance, these standard views here, now I have this 3D view. So if I go to standard view, it's going to move it. And now it's going to go back to that position that I just saved as the 3D view. Okay, so you can add some standard views here if you so choose. Okay, and you do that through the one with the little camera and the list in back of it. It's kind of like I want to go back to this, so you have control over that. All right, so I'm going to kind of keep this right here. And then I'm going to add my next part in. But before I do, I think it's fun to change the colors. So I'm going to highlight the part. I'm going to go up to appearances here, arrow down, and I'm going to put this on that kind of buttery yellow, if you would. Okay. All right. So that it looks nicer than just gray. Now I'm going to pull in my next part. As we look, we're going to pull in the side like C channels. Okay. So I'm going to go to the C 15 by 14. I'm going to open that, and you'll notice that it just kind of puts it in here, you know, regular. So I need the C's to be to the inside. So the flats are going to be to the outside, and the C's are going to be to the inside. So this orientation for this side looks like it's going to work, okay? So what I'm going to do first is I need to get my part, and it doesn't matter really which order you do these constraints in, and so if you want to follow along in the order of the book, that's totally fine. But what I'm going to do my placement, and I am going to do coincident, okay? And I'm going to take this front face right here of my channel, and again, the channel, the C's are going to be to the inside here, and I'm going to line it up with the back face of my lower plate, okay? So now it's in line here, okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new constraint, so I just hit new constraint here, and on this outside surface of my purple part, is going to be in line with the edge of that lower plate. So now it kind of pulled it into alignment here, okay? And then lastly, I need this bottom surface, so I'm going to do one last new constraint, and I'm going to do the bottom surface of my channel and the flat portion here of my lower plate. And now those are in line with one another. So now you'll notice my status says fully constrained, all right? So I can hit OK here or my middle mouse button. And as long as I'm here, I might as well do a fun color. I'm gonna select on that, and let's color that. Let's color it blue. Okay, so there it is. Now I want to do the other side. So I'm just gonna go through that process one more time. So I'm gonna go assemble the C 15 by 14 channel. It brings it in. Now I'm gonna push it over to the other side. So that's just to translate horizontally. So I'm gonna select, and I'm gonna highlight, if you would. And I'm going to left mouse button and drag over translationally, okay? So any of those arrows are like translational motion or straight line motion, okay? And if I wanted to make this higher or lower, see how the green arrow would let me go up and down? And the blue arrow, if I go up to the top here and I kind of view it, the blue arrow goes like front and back, okay? All of the circles around the outside then do rotations about each one of the axes, okay? So I need my C portion to be to the inside. So I'm going to use this blue one to kind of flip it over so that it is like in that orientation there, okay? The best thing to do, now it doesn't have to ever be perfect, but you want to try to get it sort of close to the orientation, because then there's less likely chance for things to kind of get wonky, okay? So if something is way over and out of orientation, sometimes it doesn't always understand, even when we're doing the constraints correctly. So try to get it like as close to where you believe it should be-ish as possible, because then it'll just minimize the error that can occur when it's trying to determine what you want. All right, so now I'm going to add my constraints. So I'm going to go to placement here. I'm going to go to coincident, and I'm going to say, okay, this surface right here, not that one, I want this one, is going to be coincident to this one. Did I do it? I did not do it. No. I want to cancel that one. Yes, do I want to cancel? Yeah, oh, it just takes out the old part. That's okay, because it was my first one. So let's do it one more time. Let's open it up. Let's scooch it on over using this. Let's rotate it around that axis so we get it in the right orientation. And then I just have to be sure that I click the right surfaces when I line these up. So placement, coincident, and like I said, you know, worst case scenario, what you're gonna do is you're gonna pick, you know, wrong thing, and then you said you can just hit cancel. It's no real big deal. I'm gonna rotate this just a little bit more. Okay, so now that's in line there. Now what I wanna do is I wanna line up the bottoms. Again, this can be in any order, new constraint, this bottom surface, that surface. So now it's in line that way. And now I just gotta get it so that this surface, one last constraint, this outside surface here is in line with this surface here. Okay, and I think it all looks good. It says that it's fully constrained, so I can hit OK. Good idea at this point. Actually, I'm going to select that last part. I'm going to make it blue. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit save so that I don't lose what I would have already accomplished. Okay. All right, now I'm going to add what we call our upper plate is going to be in here. Okay, so I'm going to assemble. I'm going to go to my upper plate, open, and I'm going to bring it to the back area here. And I'm going to grab this arrow and go over. Play around with these arrows and these arcs. You're going to start getting used to it. After I've kind of played around with it a little bit more and more, it kind of makes sense that the way that they're translating here. Okay. All right. So a couple things. We want the bottom face of this upper plate to be, you know, in line with or coincident to the bottom face of those C channels. So I'm going to do another coincidence, and I'm going to go this surface right here and this surface right there. Did it move it? They are. Okay. Must have been slightly moved. They look like they're in line. Okay. Then I want to do a new constraint. We're going to be coincident again, this front face and this face. So it moved it forward. Okay. And now I've got to position it on the inside here. So I'm going to go to this side because I have a little bit of a gap. It'll be easier for me. So I'm going to do one last new. And this last one I think is going to be, it's going to be a tangent, because what we're going to do is, we're going to take this bottom section right here and we're going to line it up with this side right here. Okay. All right, and that's tangent. Now, there'll be a slight, let me zoom out here, we're gonna do okay. There's gonna be a slight gap on one of the sides, but that is okay. There's gonna be a slight gap here on this one. You can kind of see it right there, but that's okay, and I'll tell you why. It's because these parts ultimately are going to be welded in position, okay? They're gonna be welded in position, so honestly, it's not that huge of a deal, okay? So you'll notice here I used my 3D view, okay, and kind of put it back in position. I'm gonna grab that upper plate. What color should we give it? We'll do red. Okay, there we go. Okay, so again, you might want to save because I added that part so that I don't, I don't lose the work that I have. All right, now the last thing I need to do is put the nut holder in the front here. Now this one is giving me just a little bit of fits. So I'm going to tell you what I did to solve that. So on my nut holder, and again, I'm going to kind of get it close-ish where it's supposed to go. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to rotate it around the green in this orientation, okay? And it's in the part, so I'm gonna pull it back so it's not in the part. We'll maybe pull it back this way a little bit so it's kind of in the right place, okay? Now, I am going to switch this user defined to rigid, okay? Because once I get it in place, I don't want it to move, because what's been happening, and I don't know why, it'll like rotate it 90 degrees, and I've been playing with it, and the only way I can get it to stay is if I set that to rigid, okay? So when it gets in place, that way it stays. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to turn on my datum axes here. I want just my datum axes on. So I'm going to turn the point display off, the plane display, so that I only can see the axes here, because I want to see the axis in this part, and I want to line up the axis in my nut holder so that those are in line with one another. So my placement here is going to be coincident, and we are going to grab that axis there, and we are going to grab, got to kind of get in here. You got to get a little creative. Here it is. It's highlighting it right here. I want those in line with one another, okay? That one's not very big because the thickness there is short, okay? Now, the last thing I need to do is I need to take the back surface here on my nut holder and put it in contact with this one. So I need to go a new, and I need to go here, and I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to zoom in, so I grab that surface there. Okay, all right, so that's it for placement-wise. Everything looks good here. Let's kind of zoom out. I think it looks good. I'm going to hit OK, and now it stayed in place. If I didn't do the rigid, it was like rotating it 90 degrees, and I was like, why does it keep doing it? And I pull it in again, and I didn't understand. Okay, might as well not make that a boring gray, make it green. There we go. There is our take-up frame, all set, all in place. Any questions at the moment? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this guy, and we'll probably come back to it a little bit later because these are sub-assemblies that we're creating for a bigger assembly. So I am going to X out of Creo here, right? And we're going to go back in and we're going to make our next assembly. Now, the next thing we're going to work on is going to be the assembly of the ball bearing that's in here. And it is actually going to be two sub-assemblies pulled together. Okay, so we're going to make the inner race sub-assembly, the outer race sub-assembly, and then we're going to put them together to make the full assembly of the ball bearing. Okay. So again, select your working directory before anything. I'm going to be on my H:, Creo 1. All right. Then what we're going to do is we're going to start off with the inner race, okay? The inner race. So I'm going to do new. I'm going to do an assembly, design, inner _ race. All right. Now, I'm going to pull in the inner race part, okay? And this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. And all I'm going to do here, this is my first part, I'm going to say it needs to be fixed. Okay, that's it for my first part, and then I'm going to hit OK or my middle mouse button. This yellow is kind of hard to look at, so I'm going to change. I'm going to have to select over here first, change the appearance. I'm going to give it more that buttery yellow color, not quite as bright. Okay, that looks good. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in the set screws, and I'm going to put them in place. So set screw here. Here it is. Now again, it's going to go up in this hole, and then there's another one over here. So whichever one you choose to, do, that's totally fine. But again, kind of get it close-ish to where it needs to go, so that it doesn't have to, make a lot of decisions for you. And then we want this to rotate like this way-ish. Okay. So I think that's pretty good. Now, the first placement constraint that I'm going to put in is going to be a coincident. It's going to be the outside body here. So get the outside surface of my set screw to the inside surface of the hole. Okay. And I think it moved it a little bit. Yep, it's in line now. These two are in line. So I'm ready to kind of put it into the actual hole itself. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on only my plane display here, because I'm going to have to select one of the datum planes that are inside of our inner race. So new constraint here, this is going to be a distance, and it's going to be from that top surface of my set screw to the top plane, which is right here. Notice how I'm hovering over one of those planes. I'm checking. That is the top plane of my inner race. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to put a distance in here of 0.5. Enter. Okay. So there we are, and fully constrained. So we're good to go. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other set screw that's over here. So again, I'm going to assemble. Same part. Set screw comes in. It's over here, so let's bring it over. Blue overish, and then we have to rotate, not that way, this way. there it is. There it is. I was seeing the green arrow, not the other. So now we're gonna, oops, here, grab the red arrow. We're gonna translate down and over and here. Oh, I'm kind of beyond it. I know, this gets, it's a little funky. Okay, so I'm gonna do a placement. It's going to be coincident. That outside surface, I'm going to do the hole first to the outside surface of my pin. So now those guys are in alignment. I don't know exactly where it is. It's over here. Crazy. Oh, I got out of the placement. So let me select this. I should be able to do a, yep, edit definition. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a new constraint. This one is going to be that distance, okay? The distance. So we're working with kind of a wonky part here. I'm going to scooch this up over here. And we're gonna first make sure that only our datum planes are shown here. We need the right, the right plane, which is this horizontal one here. So we're gonna do that one to that top surface right there. And our distance is gonna be, again, 0.5. It's gonna snug right into that hole where we need it to go. There it is, and we're gonna hit okay. We're gonna say, that looks awesome, okay? Now, if you wanna change the color of the set screws, it's totally fine. They're a different color here and they look different. Otherwise, there's our in erase. We're going to say File, Save, in erase. Good to go. All right, that's the first subassembly of our bearing. Second subassembly of our bearing, we're going to start fresh again. Again, you may not have to do this. I just find that everything resets and it's way easier to determine. Otherwise, you got to go back out and you've got to do the close, and then you've got to delete all the old stuff. And to me, it's just easier. Select the working directory. So I'm going to do my normal working directory as my H drive, Creo, Creo 1. I know we're in Creo 2, but I've just been using that same directory. I should call it like Creo working directory or something like that. We're going to start new assembly. So you get a lot of practice through these couple of tutorials, because there's actually in this one, there's 3 tutorials built into one. This is going to be outer underscore race. Okay. Now I'm going to pull in my outer race first. Okay. And that is going to be my fixed item. Okay. So that's there. And I'm going to hit okay. All right. So that color's fine. I'm good with that color. All right, now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in my ball, okay, for the ball bearing. So here's my ball, open, and it's over here. And I want to place it kind of inside the groove here. So I'm going to kind of pull over, kind of get an idea of where this is. It's actually in there already, isn't it? Kind of in there. Okay, so that's cool. So it's pretty close. Okay, and I'm going to start. Now this one is going to be a little bit more involved as far as placing it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a tangent on the inside of that groove there and zoom, 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 the surface of the ball, okay? Tangent. Those two guys are tangent. The next constraint that we're going to do is we're going to line up the next, I think it's 2 constraints. We're going to line up the right planes and the front planes of each one, okay? So new constraint, we're going to turn on only the plane displays, okay? Plane displays. Now, you have a choice here. You can create this little box of the ball, okay, so that we can go over here and kind of look at the different planes and maybe a little bit easier to select, okay, the planes when we go over the top of them. Or you can go down in here and zoom, zoom, zoom in and out between the two, okay? So our new constraint now is going to be a coincident. So I'm going to put it to coincident right away. And we are going to do the right plane of the ball. So what I do is I hover over each one of these planes. Now this one is the front plane, or I'm sorry, the top plane. I don't want that one. I want the right plane. There it is. This plane needs to be on the same right plane. This front, I think this one is probably, here's the right. Yes. Okay, the right plane there. Okay, so it's just positioning it inside up along there. Okay, so that's the right plane and right plane. Then I'm going to do front plane and front plane. So the next one, new constraint, is going to be front plane, which I think is this one on the ball. I'm going to use this little guy up here. Oh, no, that's the right. That's the top. Here's the front plane. There we go, front plane. And then I've got to find it over here. I think this might be right. I think this is the top. So that means that this is the front. There we go. Okay, now you'll notice that we went from, and you may or may not have seen it before, but it was partially constrained now before to fully constrained. You have to do those two plane lineups and the tangent. And now I can hit OK. All right, I've got it in place. Now, I need to have 8 balls around the inside there, 8 balls around the inside. So, I am going to select that ball, and I'm going to create a pattern about the axis of this outer race, yes, pattern. And I'm going to switch this now to dimension. We're going to go to axis, and we're going to select first the axis of the outer race. So I need to go back up here, and I need to put my axis display on. Okay, so here's the axis that I want to select right there in the middle. Okay, so once it selects it, now I can put in the number of items that I want here, which is going to be 8 balls, and they're going to have 45 degrees in between each one. So now it's not going to show the balls just yet. It's going to show the little dots going around, and they're evenly spaced around that inside groove. So I'm going to say, yeah, that looks good. That looks good. Look at that. I've got my ball bearings in place now. Doesn't that look good? All right, I'm going to make them a nice, fun color. Color do we want them to be? We're going to say those are going to be like this magenta color. Oops, did it not do it? Pattern, that magenta color. Will it do it? Oh, it maybe won't. That's kind of a bummer. Maybe I should have done it before, but that's okay. So they're in here. So now I'm going to hit save. I've got my ball bearings for my outer race. I'm good to go. I'm good to go. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to close out one more time. And now we're going to put this inner race and this outer race together. All right, to make the actual bearing itself. All right, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to pull my outer race in first to my full assembly. So again, I made 2 sub-assemblies of the inner race, outer race, and now I'm going to pull those 2 together to make like the complete assembly. Set up my working directory, Creo 1, okay. I'm going to start new here, another new assembly, and we're going to call this ball bearing. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to pull in my outer race first. Assembly, outer race assembly. Outer race. That's the one that I just created. Okay, there it is. Now all I'm going to do is I'm going to say fixed, automatic, and fixed. So I switch it from automatic to fixed. And then I hit OK. All right, there it is. Outer race. Now I'm going to pull in my inner race. Okay, where's my inner race assembly? Okay, there's my inner race with the set screws. Now, this is where we got to kind of play around with the orientation here, and it's not always real easy to see. I need this groove to be in line with those grooves in there, okay? So what that means is this portion is going to kind of stick out one side or the other, Now, when I line up, I'm going to line up coincident my back surface here with this surface here, I believe. So let's place it in position, and then this part is actually going to stick out in the front. Yep, that's exactly what I want to do. So my placement here, actually, before I do that, I do want the inside of this bearing to move, okay? So I want it to actually rotate around. So I do need to put on here user-defined pin, because if I do a pin, that allows this to actually rotate, just like I did on my link yesterday, rotate around that axis as I need to, because really that's what I want to happen in relationship to that outside outer race, I want that inner race to actually rotate. So I need that to occur here when I'm designing it. So this is going to be a placement of a pin. So I am going to do my axis alignment first. So I need the axis of the inner race and the axis of the outer race to be in combination or be on the same line. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to get rid of everything except the axis display. So I can just see the axes that are here. And the axis that I want is going to be the one on the center of my inner race here. Okay? It's this guy. So I want this one and this one to be in line with one another, okay? And they are, right? They switched it. But now translationally, like where is this sitting in there, okay? Where is that sitting? Translationally, I want this surface and this surface to be coincident. So that's what I'm going to do. This surface and this surface coincident, okay? That's it. Yeah. Okay, there we go. Have everything, if we look, those groups are all lined up. Okie-dokie. Now, if I wanted to on the outer race assembly, I can change what that looks like. Oh, blue. No. Blue. Oh, I did the inner race. Outside, I don't like that color. Do you like that color? Make it. There we go. Okay, whatever. It doesn't really matter. That's not the important part. Okay, so now full assembly, file, save. And it's going to save as my ball bearing assembly. They're together. Okay, so that's what I wanted to accomplish today. So tomorrow we're going to do the last two. We've got one more part, subassembly to create here, the take-up piece. And then we're going to be putting it all together to create the final complete assembly. So we'll save those two for tomorrow, okay? So that's all that I have for today. Before I let you guys go, does anybody have any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, come back up here. Jonah, Luke, anything before I take off or let you go? Okay. Doesn't look, nope. Okay, cool. So so that's it. So I will see you guys same place tomorrow. Okay. For those who are in Machine Elements, I just want to remind you guys that Machine Elements officially starts tomorrow. So make sure that you're on at the 9 o'clock time for Machine Elements, and we'll get that class started too. Okay. That's all that I have for today. Have a great rest of your day.